At 71 kilograms, fights are often sold as wars of speed or strength, but this one was something quieter, more cerebral, and far more revealing. On April 18, 2025, at IBA.PRO 2, Sergei Ludkovich walked into the ring carrying the kind of record that demands respect, undefeated, seasoned, and willing to accept a fight on short notice. 18 wins, 1 draw, no panic in his eyes. Fighters like him survive because they understand themselves. Across from him stood Saidjamshid Jafarov of Uzbekistan, tall and loose, his posture almost deceptive, his calm unsettling. This was his first IBA.PRO appearance, but there was nothing new about the way he moved. Everything about him spoke of system, of repetition, of a background forged in Olympic discipline rather than professional chaos. From the opening bell, the difference wasn't aggression, it was intent. Ludkovich advanced with purpose, looking to establish himself early, dipping his knees, targeting the body, doing what pressure fighters are taught to do when facing a rangy southpaw. Jafarov didn't rush to respond. His lead hand floated like a sensor, measuring distance, interrupting rhythm, asking quiet questions rather than making loud statements. This was not hesitation, it was information gathering. The first round became less about punches landed and more about territory claimed. Every step Ludkovich took forward required permission, and permission was never fully granted. Jafarov's feet stayed just outside danger, sliding back at angles, never straight, never careless. The crowd may not have noticed it yet, but the fight had already begun to lean. In boxing, control doesn't arrive suddenly, it arrives invisibly, and by the time it's noticed, it's already entrenched. As the fight progressed, the true nature of the contest became clearer. This wasn't a battle of courage, it was a battle of access. Ludkovich wanted inside space, wanted to compress the fight, wanted to make Jafarov uncomfortable. The problem was that every attempt came with a cost. Jafarov's jab wasn't thrown to dominate, it was thrown to disrupt, to delay, to create a fraction of hesitation that allowed everything else to work. Sometimes it landed, sometimes it didn't, but it always served its purpose. Ludkovich read the situation correctly, continuing to aim for the body, knowing that headshots against a tall, skilled southpaw early would be inefficient. He dipped low, jabbed downstairs, tried to close the gap behind responsible pressure. But closing distance against a fighter who controls space this well is like walking uphill in sand. Jafarov's feet were light, his balance constant, his reactions economical. And Ludkovich committed too hard. Even for a moment, the response came: a check hook, a short left hand, a subtle reminder that the line of attack was being watched. This wasn't punishment meant to end the fight, it was correction. Correction is far more demoralizing. By the end of the first round, there was no visible damage on either fighter, but the psychological scoreboard had shifted. Ludkovich knew he wasn't being given anything freely. Jafarov knew he could see everything coming. And in high-level boxing, vision is often the greatest weapon of all. Round 2 was where the fight began to reveal its final shape. Jafarov increased his output just enough to make his superiority undeniable, but never enough to risk disorder. The jab came quicker now, sharper, snapping out and retracting before Ludkovich could counter it. And behind it came the straight left hand, precise, disciplined, and psychologically heavy. These weren't knockout shots, they were momentum killers. Each time Ludkovich stepped in with conviction, the left hand met him either in the chest or the body, halting progress before it could turn into pressure. This is where elite southpaws separate themselves from ordinary ones. They don't wait to react, they preempt. Jafarov varied his left hand intelligently, sometimes throwing it straight, sometimes slightly looping around the guard, sometimes digging it into the midsection. The variety mattered more than the power. Ludkovich remained composed, still trying to work inside, still balanced, still disciplined, but the gap between effort and reward widened. Every clean shot Jafarov landed looked simple. Every shot Ludkovich tried to land required sacrifice. The tempo rose, but only within boundaries set by one man. This wasn't dominance in the dramatic sense, it was dominance by design. By the end of the second round, it was clear that Jafarov had found his rhythm, and once a fighter like that settles in, the fight stops being about possibilities and starts being about limits. Rounds 3 and 4 placed Ludkovich in the hardest position a professional fighter can face, competitive but contained. He wasn't being overwhelmed, he wasn't being hurt badly, but he wasn't winning moments either. Jafarov, now fully comfortable, layered his work with increasing sophistication. Feints preceded punches, footwork dictated angles. The left hand arrived from different trajectories, timed perfectly to Ludkovich's forward motion. Each attempt to close distance resulted in either a glancing connection or a clean counter. This is the kind of fight that drains confidence without visibly draining the body. Ludkovich continued to do the right things, moving forward responsibly, targeting the body, trying to disrupt rhythm, but nothing stuck. Nothing forced Jafarov to abandon his structure, and that discipline was the real difference. Many fighters, sensing control, would have chased a stoppage. Jafarov never did. He understood that forcing an ending against a durable opponent introduces risk, and risk was unnecessary. Control was already secured. For spectators unfamiliar with elite boxing, the fight may have looked close. For those who understand the sport, it was a slow tightening of options. Ludkovich was running out of ways to win without running into danger. Final rounds didn't bring chaos, and that was the point. Ludkovich, aware of the scorecards, continued to box intelligently, choosing professionalism over recklessness. Jafarov respected that decision and responded with the same maturity, boxing cleanly, sharply, and responsibly to the final bell. There were no knockdowns, no wild flurries, no desperate exchanges, just clarity. When the unanimous decision was announced, it reflected what had been unfolding since the opening round. Jafarov had won every round not by dominance, but by understanding. Ludkovich left the ring having lost the fight, but not his credibility, having shown durability, intelligence, and composure against a higher level of control. Jafarov left having shown something even more valuable than power restraint. In an era obsessed with knockouts, this fight was a reminder that the highest level of boxing often operates quietly. Distance, timing, and discipline decide outcomes long before punches do. On this night at IBA.PRO 2, Saidjamshid Jafarov didn't need to force a statement. He made one by never losing control.